Shadow of the Erdtree promises to be a massive expansion to the Elden Ring world, and there's a lot of things you should have on your character before you get into this DLC. I'm going to cover some of the bare minimum things I think you need to get done before you even try going into this DLC. So let's get into it. Now, Elden Ring is an absolutely massive game, that is obvious. There's a lot of different collectibles, a lot of different talismans, different swords, different armor sets that you can grab, but there are a couple different things that are minor when you first go through the game that you absolutely need to make sure you have on your new character, or at least have them on your already current character to fully experience the DLC in all its promised glory. I'll quickly touch on the fact that yes, you do need to have Radhan and Mohg defeated before you get into this DLC, because that is an actual requirement that we have been told you have to do before you can even access this DLC. There was a crazy stat that only 36% or 37% of players had defeated Mohg, the one boss that you absolutely need to have defeated to get into the DLC. So I think I would be doing a disservice not mentioning the fact that you have to defeat Mohg and of course Radhan. But in addition to these obvious things, there are a lot of minor things that I think you need to go through, such as getting the memory slots, talisman slots, and specific bell bearings to really increase your experience when you get into this brand new area. I bring these three particular things up because the memory slots allow you to have more availability to different spells that will be unlocking. There's going to be a lot of different talismans that have already been confirmed by players that have already played the game briefly that we're going to be running into inside the game, and specific bell bearings are going to allow you to get different smithing stones and different items that you can use to upgrade the brand new weapons inside of this DLC. So first, let's start with the memory slot locations. These memory slots can be increased by getting memory stones throughout the game, and these are found all over Elden Ring, all over the lands between. The very first one that you can find very easily is just simply at the Round Table Hold in the Twin Husks shop. Now, this may not be your first one, but it's by far the easiest to get. Another one of these memory stones can be found in Oridis's Rise in the southern plateau of Limgrave. It's not very hard to find. If you go to this particular location, it'll be very easy to see. It's going to be up the hill from the Castle Morn Rampart side of Grace. Another tower that's going to have one of these memory stones is the Converted Tower just south of the Academy where you fight Rune. There's a couple different ways you can get into this tower. You can use Torrent to jump around, or you can use a certain emote to get inside here. I recommend using Torrent to get on top of it. Much easier. And speaking of the Academy, you do have to fight a particular boss here inside of the debate parlor. It's going to be Radagon's Red Wolf. All you have to do is defeat this boss. It's going to give you a variety of different items if you have not faced this boss before, but one of those items is going to be another memory stone. Moving north of the Academy, you're going to find Tetsu's Rise on this Soul Island that's just not really surrounded by anything else. All you have to do is get inside of this area as well. It's not very difficult. It's a very easy puzzle, but on the top of this tower, you will find another memory stone. Moving further north, you want to make your way to Celavis's Rise, another tower that can only be opened after you interact with Ronnie and agree to go into her service. This quest line will then start to have you go and talk to Celavis, which will then of course open up his entire tower. At the top of it, you can get another memory stone. Another memory stone can be found by defeating a demi-human boss just north of the hermit village found in Mount Gelmir. I believe it's demi-human Queen Maggie. It's a very easy boss fight. There are other sorcerers around her that will attack you from afar. A little annoying in that way, but not a hard fight overall. And I saved Lena's Rise for last because it's all the way on the edge of the Caelid section of the map, and you may not come across it if you're not looking for it, or if you really don't expand your exploration over this way. Nonetheless, you can easily get inside of this location as well by using Torrent. Again, all these different memory stones are just going to give you an availability to use that much wider of a range of spells that we are going to be finding for sure inside of the DLC, so there's no reason not to have all of these unlocked on your brand new character if you haven't done so already. So let's also move on to talisman slots. As you probably already know, these talisman slots or talisman pouches unlocks additional slots, up to 4 different slots where you can equip a variety of different talismans that do a lot of different things throughout the game. Some of these talismans are really broken, and all of them are really helpful used in specific builds, so it's definitely worth getting all of these different pouches. Now, they are mostly scattered by defeating different bosses. The first one you can get is actually defeating Margit before you go into Stormvale Castle. From here, you're going to have to go and defeat 2 different bosses that have great runes. The closest of these particular type of bosses is obviously going to be Godric the Grafted inside the castle that you just defeated Margit to get into. After that, it really doesn't matter which one you go after, it just has to be one with great runes. After you've done this, make your way back to the main finger reader crowd where the fingers are inside of the Round Table Hold. Talk to her and she will tell you all about what's upcoming for you and also give you another talisman pouch. Now, the third and final talisman pouch can only be found when you defeat Godfrey the Golden Shade inside of the capital. Now, this is going to be a little bit later on to into the game about midway through your game, so it will take you a little bit of time to get this final pouch. By this time, it should be very easy to defeat this boss. I did not think he was very difficult when I first interacted with him through my very first playthrough, but you guys let me know down in the comments. Now, having extra talismans and extra spells is very helpful, but what's really going to pack a lot of punch in the DLC is an upgraded weapon. In specific, bell bearings, when you turn them in, unlocks a huge amount of smithing stones at the round table hold. The first one can be found in the Ray Lucaria Crystal Tunnel. Defeat this case boss and you'll get your first of many bell bearings. The second can be found inside of the sealed tunnel in the Altus Plateau just outside of the main capital. In this tunnel, all you have to do is find a particular chest that inside is going to have your second bell bearing. The third is going to be found at the mountaintops of the Giants in the Zamor ruins, which isn't all that difficult to get to. And at the back of this ruins, you're going to find a bunch of stairs that you can go down with another chest that will have your third bell bearing. And the fourth of this particular kind of bell bearing can be collected by defeating the Godskin Duo inside of the crumbling Pharaoh Missoula area. Quickly moving on to somber smithing stone bell bearings, you want to make your way to the Celia Crystal Tunnel inside of Caelid. It's not too difficult to come across. Once again, you have to get inside and defeat the boss in this particular tunnel. The second kind of this particular bell bearing can be found in the Altus Tunnel inside the Altus Plateau, kinda in a divot area where there used to be a giant bridge. It won't be too difficult to find. You'll see jellyfish floating around this entrance. Number 3 brings us back to the mountaintops of the Giants, but first you need to get to the First Church America, and it's literally just going to be outside of this church sitting on a dead body. Very easy one to get. Number 4 is going to be right next to the Tempest-facing balcony site of Grace in Crumbling Pharaoh Missoula. It's literally right against the edge where you load into this site of Grace. It'll be very hard to miss. And the final bell bearing for smithing stones is going to be found in Crumbling Pharaoh Missoula as well, but very more particularly inside of this particular rundown church. There will be a couple beastmen surrounding this area, so take them out first and then easily get the bell bearing. With all the bell bearings in your inventory, go back to the table, turn them into the merchant in this area, and you'll be able to get all the different smithing stones that you need to upgrade your weapons outside of the final tier, the Ancient Dragon smithing stones. Getting all these different bell bearings is going to set you up to really start testing out a bunch of different weapons inside of the DLC and upgrading them to a near perfect level, which I think is very much so worth going through the game and getting all these different bell bearings ahead of time. Now, this is one I made sure myself that I had completed. It was knocking down and making sure all the mausoleums throughout the game were accessible so I can clone all the new remembrances that have been confirmed for the DLC. Now, of course, we don't have a complete list of all these different remembrances or how many in total there's going to be, but we have been told that there are remembrances nonetheless, so it's definitely worth going and having all these knocked down so they're easily accessible to clone the ones that we really want to have duplicates of. A good thing to keep in mind is that the mausoleums without bells cannot clone every single one of the remembrances that you come across inside of the game. However, the ones with bells are able to do that, so it's good to keep in mind that you should have, again, all of these different kinds of mausoleums knocked down because you don't know what's going to be available at which one just yet. Thankfully, most of these mausoleums are very easy to knock down, very easy to get to. As you can see, there's a mausoleum compound site of Grace right from the get-go, where you can find at least 3 in a very close vicinity, as you can see by the green flags that I put onto my map. Now, there are only 7 of these available, so make sure you knock them all down and have as many available as possible for the DLC remembrances. We really don't know, again, the amount of remembrances we're going to have, but we can assume it's going to be a fair amount because the entire area of this DLC is supposed to be massive. So I always say better safe than sorry. And my final thing on this list is to level up as much as possible and get as many runes as possible so you can get any kind of build, any weapon, any armor set that you want to use. Yes, it has been confirmed that your level doesn't really matter that much. There's going to be a mechanic that your level isn't going to be super effective as it was in the base game, but it's also confirmed that there are a certain level of enemies that you're going to have to fight in the DLC, and I don't see why you wouldn't want to upgrade your stats enough to where you can put on any brand new weapons and armor sets that we're definitely going to be coming across inside of the Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, still by far one of the easiest places to get a bunch of runes very quickly is the Palace Approach Ledge Road of Site of Grace, which is also right across from Mohg Palace. Most of you are probably very familiar with this location, but if you're not, it's a location which a lot of Albinore's are just sitting around very peacefully. You can easily farm them for a lot of runes very quickly. You can easily get over 1,000,000 runes if you just sit here for an hour, so it's a very easy place for you to level up very quickly and put those stats into particular locations on your build, allowing you to easily wield any particular weapon that you come across, brand new spells, everything that you could think of. You can also do this right before you go into the DLC, get a ton of runes, and as soon as you find the first shop, buy a brand new weapon to try out. Now, of course, there's a lot of different things things you can get done before the DLC releases, but if you really want to make most of the DLC, be prepared with all these different items that I just brought up, all the different talismans, the memory slots, bell bearings so you can upgrade weapons easily, and of course having enough runes to level up and purchase anything you possibly want. I plan to be going into the DLC fully loaded with anything and everything I can possibly get, and these are going to be my top items to make sure I have on my new character. Now, even though this is a very short list, I'm curious what you guys are absolutely planning to bring into the DLC when it does release. Let me know down in the comments what is your number one thing you guys are making sure you have before going into the shadow of the Erdtree. I hope you guys found this guide helpful. That is the point of pretty much all of my videos, to be at least some form of helpfulness, especially going into such a massive game that is Elden Ring. If you guys did find it helpful, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I will catch you guys in the next video.